Hello everyone, that's tuning in today's first video, doing weekend forecast as always on a Saturday, and we detail look the weather for the weekend. Now some of these weekend forecasts tend to kind of blend together, very often not all that interesting for the week ahead forecast, but this is going to be one of those weeks. It's going to be a very, very interesting week's weather, potentially a little bit historic, as we see the remains of Hurricane Ophelia heading into Ireland on Monday. It's going to be some very warm temperatures with it for the start of the week, unseasonably and usually warm, and also severe gale force winds, heavy rain in the west and the north as well. Once Ophelia is out of the way, it's going to completely change the complexion of the weather. So we'll lose all of the warmth and the humidity, almost midsummer-like conditions, and we'll go firmly into mid-autumn type conditions with lots of wet and windy weather and much, much cooler temperatures as well. So a real really interesting week's weather coming up, and I'll get on with the forecast for you in a second. Before I get on with that, just to say that websites using for weekend forecasts are coming from weathertech.de and weatherout.com, and you find links to both of those websites on the links page. Later on today, we'll have, just for fun, a 6-month look ahead with the Beijing Climate Centre. That will cover the full winter period. That'll be coming up with you around sort of 6-7 o'clock this evening. So this is the current radar picture from the Weather Outlook. Not a huge amount going on. We had some patchy rain across northern England this morning. Most of that's dying out, but another pulse of rain is beginning to head in towards Northern Ireland and southwestern parts of Scotland. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather. Here's today's toxic pressure chart, and we've got high pressure across central parts of Europe. Got low pressure down in the Atlantic. It come down here to the Azores. That area of low pressure is the remains, or it is actually Hurricane Ophelia, and that will become ex-Hurricane Ophelia as it pushes northwards and eastwards towards Ireland tomorrow and then into Monday. We're drawing up the air from the south, so it's already quite warm across England and Wales. Actually, it's going to be a nice afternoon with plenty of sunny spells. There will be cloud floating around, blotting out sunshine at times. But really quite a nice afternoon. Temperatures up to around 21 degrees, perhaps in central London, about 70 Fahrenheit, well above average for the time of year, but it'll be much warmer by the time we get through to the start of next week. Elsewhere, so quite a bit of cloud across the north and the west, and we will have outbreaks of rain developing across particularly southwestern parts of Scotland, also into the Outer Hebrides. It could turn quite wet there this afternoon, and maybe some patchy rain through Northern Ireland as well. On the northern side of that rain band, it's autumnal air. It's much cooler, so temperatures only around 10 to 12 degrees in the far north of Scotland, but most places are pleasantly warm. Overnight tonight, the rain will turn heavy and persistent with this area of low pressure developing across the northwest of Scotland. So in the northwest of Scotland, it will be a wet night with outbreaks of heavy and persistent rain, some showery rain through Northern Ireland as well. Rest of the country though will be dry with a mix of clear spells and variable cloud. The winds are wafting up from the south and southwest, bringing up warm air, so it could be a warm night, quite a sultry night, that's down in the south. Temperatures holding up generally at around 10 to 15 degrees Celsius, way above average for a mid-October night. Through into Sunday, so again bringing up this southerly wind, and that area of low pressure now off the coast of Spain and Portugal. That is ex-Hurricane Ophelia heading relentlessly and remorselessly northwards towards Ireland. But most places actually having a dry day across England and Wales anyway tomorrow, with sunny spells coming through. For Scotland and Northern Ireland, it will be cloudy, and there'll be showery outbreaks of rain at times. But rain might be quite heavy to start off with, but I think it tends to turn lighter and patchier as the day progresses. Temperatures will be even warmer in the southeast compared to those of today, so could reach around 22, possibly 23 degrees in central parts of London. Down to far southeast, that's around 72, 73 Fahrenheit. Even in the north, it'll be warmer, with temperatures for Scotland and Northern Ireland at around 14 to 18 degrees Celsius. Right, better pick things up with the facts charts next. Remember, these are the human interpretations of the forecasters at the UK Met Office. So these have been drawn up by living forecasters based on the model output. So if we scroll down, this is for midnight on Monday. If we scroll down, there is ex-Hurricane Ophelia as a very significant area of low pressure starting to push northwards. By the time we go through into midday on Monday, well, here comes ex-Hurricane Ophelia pushing in towards the Republic of Ireland. These two fronts here will be bringing outbreaks of rain across much of Ireland. Some of that will be heavy, and then this cold front will be pushing in across England and Wales. That looks like it'll be quite weak, so I think for much of England and Wales we don't get much in the way of rain from this, but it will change the air mass because ahead of this cold front it's very warm and humid indeed. Behind the cold front it will be turning significantly cooler. But I think the main story about Monday's weather is going to be the winds. Notice the tightly packed ice bars wrapped around this area of low pressure. It's going to be gale force winds to much of Ireland. Probably we'll see gales running up the Irish Sea coast as well, so parts of southwest England, parts of West Wales, northwest England, and up in towards western southwest Scotland, close to the coast. I think you have gale force winds. But for Ireland, I think we see severe gales around coast. So gusts could go to 70, 80 miles an hour around the coast. Inland, 60, 70 mile an hour gusts certainly looking possible through the course of Monday. This takes us to midnight on Tuesday, when the remains of Hurricane Ophelia then moving up towards Scotland. So the worst of the wind and rain will transfer from Ireland to Scotland late on Monday and into Monday night, Tuesday morning. Notice all places having quite tightly packed ice bars, so it will be turning windy across all parts of the country by the end of Monday, but it really is in the north and the west that the worst of those winds will be. Bear in mind, the track of this low pressure, ex-Hurricane Ophelia, might change a little bit based on what we're seeing today. So it's not totally nailed down that this is its position, although we have had fairly good consistency from the model output and from the UK Met Office facts charts for the track of this low pressure. So I wouldn't anticipate a huge change in terms of the movement of this low pressure. I think it's broadly right, just slight changes could occur in the next 24 hours or so, and obviously we'll keep you updated on that. Notice by midnight on Tuesday that cold front has gone off into Europe, and now we're bringing in a much cooler and fresher air mass across the whole country, and that's how we'll go through the remainder of the week. This is how the GFS sees things on Monday. So there's that very deep storm down to the southwest of Ireland at 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday, and then that pushes northwards through Ireland towards Scotland during the course of Monday itself and into Monday evening. Very, very tight packed ice bar, so gales or severe gales are likely in the north and the west, bringing the chance of disruptive weather. So in terms of actual weather, let's get back to the forecast then. So much of central eastern Britain going to have a mostly dry day, actually, and there'll be very warm spells of sunshine and seasonably warm spells of sunshine until a band of cloud moves in later through the course of the afternoon. And then behind that band of cloud, probably doesn't produce any rain, but behind that band of cloud, it turns very much cooler and fresher indeed. The real action, as you can see from this chart and from the fact charts you're looking at, is out in the north and west. So Ireland starts off with heavy outbreaks of rain and gales or severe gale force winds. They push northwards through the course of the day, heading into Northern Ireland through the morning, and then through Monday afternoon, I think we see the worst of the heavy rain and gale starting to transfer into parts of southwestern and western Scotland. Windy across all other western coastal regions of England, Wales and Scotland, and we could have gales running up the Irish Sea as well. Temperatures in the east might reach 25 degrees on Monday afternoon before that cold front arrives. That is a remarkable 77 Fahrenheit, but in the north and the west it will be much, much cooler than that. After a warm and humid start, temperatures probably tend to drop away through the course of the day and finishing up somewhere in the mid-teens Celsius. Note the date of this, Monday 16th of October 2017, 30 years to the day, or to the night, 15th, 16th of October, since the Great Storm of 1987. Quite remarkable how that is going. Hopefully we won't see the devastation and loss of life that occurred in 1987 from this particular storm. Now we go through into Tuesday and again on with the rest of the week then. So the low pressure pulls away from Scotland. It probably does give us quite a wet and windy start across Scotland Tuesday morning. There could still be gale force winds in places, but through the day that rain and wind will pull away into Norway, and it should turn generally drier and brighter across Scotland through the afternoon. Otherwise, actually, quite a nice day on Tuesday. We're under a little bit of a bump of high pressure, so it's perhaps our best day of the week. There'll be decent sunny spells coming through. It will be a much cooler, fresher feel. We're in a totally different air mass now. We've lost all that tropical humidity. So temperatures on Tuesday will be pegged right back close to average at around 10 to 17 degrees. Actually, maybe still a little bit above average in the southeast, but it'll certainly feel a lot cooler compared to the warmth and humidity of Monday. And that's really the best of it for the week, because on Wednesday, the next area of low pressure will be starting to move in from off the Atlantic Ocean. We may start with some outbreaks of rain in the south and southeast on Wednesday morning. That should go away quite quickly. And then most parts will have a dry and fine morning on Wednesday. But wet and windy weather sweeps into the west through the course of Wednesday afternoon. Some of that rain, heavy and persistent, and becoming quite windy in the west again as well. Temperatures around 10 to 16 degrees Celsius. Then we've got a really deep area of low pressure across the country on Thursday. So we start off with a lot of wind and rain around, I think, on Thursday morning. Some heavy outbreaks in places. The rain could carry on all day across the northern eastern parts of Scotland, but elsewhere it'll be pushed away by the strong west to northwesterly winds racing in from the Atlantic. And as the persistent rain moves away, then we'll go into sunshine and showers. Going to feel cool in these strong west to northwesterly winds. Temperatures ranging from around 9 to 14 degrees Celsius. So we're going back close to the long-term seasonal average for mid-October. And the strength of the wind will make it feel really quite chilly indeed. And then we move through into Friday, and low pressure is developing down to the southwest. This is our next significant area of low pressure moving in from off the Atlantic Ocean. Friday might start quite cold, and there could be some ground frost, I would have thought, for central and northern parts of the country. So can you believe we've gone from talking about 25 Celsius on Monday to talking about ground frost by Friday? Going to be a very dramatic week of weather, to say the least. So we start off mostly dry with ground frost across many parts of the country, or many northern parts of the country on Friday. There will be decent sunny spells, but in the south and west it'll go downhill quite quickly with outbreaks of rain and fairly strong winds arriving in the southwest by the end of the afternoon on Friday. Northern eastern areas probably hanging on to mostly dry conditions. Temperatures about average between around 8 and 14 degrees Celsius. And then we get through into the weekend, so we've got another storm system sweeping in across the country. This is bringing heavy rain and gale force winds across the country overnight Friday and into Saturday. Saturday next week starting off really wet and windy. That rain pushes away with the strongest of the winds, but we remain very cool and showery through the course of Saturday. And then Sunday is bringing in more low pressure from the southwest, so probably after a dry start, cloud and rain with pretty strong winds pushing back in from off the Atlantic. Notice a fairly long fetch to that southwesterly wind on Sunday, so that could bring milder air back into the south, probably just temporarily. Finally, just having a look at the charts from the weather outlook. So we've got mostly dry and warm conditions for many parts of the country today, although there will be some showery rain up in the north and the west. Mainly dry away from the northwest on Sunday. And then Monday, we get the storm system starting to come through. Actually, I think that's gone a little bit wrong, hasn't it? So this isn't updated. This is starting off Friday yesterday. So I think I'm going to abandon that because something's gone wrong at the weather outlook. These are not updated charts. They're starting from yesterday. So sorry about that. I think I'm going to abandon that part of the weekend forecast. So I was running through there. I thought something wasn't quite right, but I hadn't noticed the first chart starts off with yesterday's date, Friday, October 13th. So obviously something's gone wrong there, hasn't updated at Weather Outlook. We'll abandon that part of the week ahead forecast. So coming back to the summary for the week ahead, it's going to be a very unsettled week's weather. Indeed, really interesting weather for weather anoraks. Hopefully it won't be too dangerous with these winds in the north and west on Monday. But in summary, so starting off very warm and humid. We've got a tropical air mass heading up with the remains of ex-Hurricane Ophelia. It'll bring gale force winds and heavy rain, probably severe gale force winds, to Ireland and parts of Scotland as well, becoming very windy generally up the western side of the UK. But at the same time as that's happening, the eastern part of the country will be unusually warm, with temperatures potentially getting to 77 Fahrenheit, 25 degrees on Monday. Once Ophelia is out of the way, we're into a totally different air mass. It'll stay unsettled, it'll be much cooler, and there'll be wind, rain and gales at times through the remainder of the week as autumn properly starts to descend. Right, we'll keep you updated with all the latest, of course, on Hurricane Ophelia, on ex-Hurricane Ophelia. I'll have an update for that for you tomorrow, probably in the evening, actually, as we take a final look at the storm tomorrow evening. Also tomorrow, we'll have the 6th Winter 17-18 update. A lot of you are waiting for that. That'll be with you on the homepage tomorrow morning. And tomorrow as well, Terry Scully will be issuing his preliminary Winter 17-18 thoughts. So loads of updates coming up tomorrow. Really going to be very interesting today. And later on today, we'll have the a 6-month look ahead just for fun from the Beijing Climate Centre. That covers, of course, the winter period as well. Right, I think that's got everything in. Very long weekend forecast today, but there has obviously been a lot to talk about in terms of the remains of ex-Hurricane Ophelia. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.